This recording is copyright. In the IELTS test, you hear some recordings and you have to answer questions on them. You have time to read the instructions and questions and check your work. All recordings are played only once. The test is in 4 parts. Now look at part 1.
You will hear a woman asking an agent about rented accommodation. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning. How can I help you?
I'm interested in renting somewhere to live in town and was wondering what you had available.
Excellent. I'll just need to find out a bit more about what you're looking for and then we can see what we've got. So your name is?
Anna Black.
Good, got that. And what sort of accommodation are you looking for, ideally?
Well, I don't know if this is going to be possible, but ideally a house. I live in a flat at the moment and I've got really noisy neighbours. That's the reason I want to move.
Oh dear. And I'm afraid most of the accommodation for rent in the city centre is flats. Would you be prepared to look elsewhere? There are a lot of nice properties in the southeast.
Oh yes, that would be really convenient for me. Quite a few of my friends are there and it would be really close to my work.
And there's more chance of finding what you're after there. I take it you'd be looking for a furnished place, would you?
Yes. And I know it's not always included, but I'd like to have a washing machine. I hate going to laundrettes, and if I'm a bit further out of the city, it might be a problem to find one.
I'll see what I can do. Now, how long would you need the property for, bearing in mind that the minimum is 6 months?
1 year. I don't want to chop and change too often, and that'd give me the chance to see how things work out. And then I could reassess the situation after that.
And when would you like to move in?
I've got to be out of my present place by the 30th of April. Then I'm going to visit my parents for a couple of weeks, so let's say 15th of May.
And what's your current address? I'd better make a note of that for our files, and I'll put that you're there only until the end of April.
56 Stone Street.
And is there a phone number I can get you on?
Yes. The best one to use is my mobile, and that's 07942 326 584.
Now, of course, we'll need a reference before we're able to proceed with any contract. Who would be able to supply you with a reference?
I'm pretty sure my employer will do that for me. I don't really know my doctor or anyone like that here.
Good. Now, let's see what we've got that might suit you. Oh, first, how much are you looking to pay?
I'm paying £650 a month at the moment, and the most I can go to is £675. I really can't go over that.
That shouldn't be any problem. It's a realistic figure. And can I ask what it is you do for a living?
Since I came here, I've been working for various bodies within the city as a translator. You know, for the police and the hospital.
OK, good.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
Now, if we do find something, we'll need to check your ID, so we'll need to see your passport. And, of course, to do the credit check, we'll need to see a bank statement in order to complete all the paperwork.
No problem. I can bring those in tomorrow.
Good. Now, we've got a small house to rent that I think might be just what you're looking for. 33 Ainsworth Street. That's AINSWORTH Street. Here are the details.
This looks great. Right size, right price?
Well, I could arrange for you to view it on Saturday around 4 p.m. if that's convenient.
Sounds good. I can't see any mention of a telephone in the details, though. I'd need that.
I'll look into that, and I can double-check when we're at the property.
And, sorry, there's another thing. Do you happen to know if there's a bus stop reasonably close to the house, so that I can get around easily?
Again, if I can't find out before Saturday, I'll check it out when we're there.
OK. So I'll drop by tomorrow with those papers you need, and then see you at the property Saturday at 4 p.m.
Excellent.
That is the end of part 1. You now have some time to check your answers. Now look at part 2.
You will hear a company manager talking to staff about procedures to follow if a fire breaks out at work. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 14. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 14.
Hello, and thanks to everyone for being on time. The meeting will be fairly short and will only be looking at fire procedures. I had a similar meeting with the senior fire officers earlier today, but you're all here because you've volunteered to act as fire wardens for your own particular department, and for some of you, this will be your first time in the role. Although you'll probably have taken part in several fire drills since you've been here. But now the construction work is finished and we have a couple of new corridors and stairways, we need the meeting to update everyone. And before I forget, you might have noticed a bit of upgrading last week. The handheld fire extinguishers, the standard ones on the wall, the report says they're all working well, as is the overhead sprinkler system. But the old alarm system has been replaced and should be a lot more reliable. Anyway, as fire wardens, you have a number of responsibilities. OK, those wardens responsible for the factory buildings, you'll remember we had a minor fire back in January. Luckily, the fire doors around the room stopped most of the smoke from getting out, but the alarm should have been pressed a lot earlier. From what I understand, staff felt somewhat reluctant to activate it themselves and were looking for someone senior. So please ensure that everyone knows it's their responsibility to take action immediately. Can you also make sure that if anyone new has been hired since then, that they've read the fire notices? And wardens for office departments, you'll also have to have a word with your staff. When the fire alarm went off in January in that minor fire, people got out of the office building pretty quickly. That was fine, but once they were out, they stood right in front of the doors. So if the fire crews had needed to access the offices, they would have been prevented. Good to see that everyone had left their bags and stuff behind, though.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 15 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 15 to 20.
OK, next on the agenda. There's a few aspects of fire safety that we need to go through with all you wardens. Firstly, we want to make sure that when we have the next fire drill, there's nothing blocking the way in the escape routes. No obstacles, I mean. So please have a look at that as soon as possible. We want to be able to get outside very quickly. One thing that should definitely be on your to-do list is making sure no one's locked the fire doors and that it's easy enough to get through them. Now, you might remember that last year we had a fire officer come and visit and show us what to do if we see a colleague starting to suffer from the effects of smoke inhalation. Well, the same officer's coming back to lead another session. Another issue is how to handle the fire extinguishers. Someone from the local fire department is booked in to teach people how to do that. I think it would be a good idea if fire wardens and department staff attended those sessions. Let's see, what else is on the list? Oh yes, the evacuation points. The green area behind the main car park, the pavement on Hunter Street, and the unused area behind the factory car park. Fire wardens need to make sure all staff are familiar with these locations for evacuation, so please send out emails directly after the meeting. And the last point is to do with flammable liquids. I believe there have been a few concerns about where they were being stored in the warehouse, but that's been resolved now. However, if anyone has anything else to report, do let me know.
That is the end of part 2. You now have some time to check your answers. Now look at part 3.
You will hear 2 environmental studies students called Jennifer and Adam comparing their research on pigeons. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, Adam, are you ready to compare notes for our presentation on pigeons for next week?
Yes, I think so. I found some really good sources describing all the different kinds of pigeons for the background section.
Me too. I knew they were a common bird, but didn't realise there were so many types. I found an interesting new study on the Australian crested pigeon. It makes a special sound to warn the rest of the flock of danger.
But a lot of birds use calls or songs to find a mate or to sound the alarm. What's special about this one?
Well, it uses its wings.
Really?
Yes, if the pigeon is startled, it makes a whistling sound when it flies off. This sound warns other pigeons in the flock that there's danger.
Interesting. I found a lot of stuff on the rock pigeons. They're the ones with the widest distribution.
Of all the pigeon species, they've been the most successful at adapting to different environments, haven't they? In contrast to the rock pigeon, there's a pigeon in the north of Australia, the black-banded pigeon, which is restricted to one very small patch of forest. Another interesting thing about it is that unlike the typical pigeons we see on pavements and roads, it stays way up in the trees in the rainforest.
That's unusual. They're varied in terms of diet as well. The Galapagos pigeon, for example, gets all its nutrients from this one kind of cactus that grows on the island where it lives.
Really? So is there anything that pigeons can't eat?
Yes, actually. They should stay away from meat because it contains bacteria that is dangerous to them.
Oh, right. You know, I thought pigeons all looked the same, but their plumage is really variable too. The Nicobar pigeon from Indonesia is very attractive. It has beautiful metallic green feathers.
It's a wonder they're not hunted.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30 Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Now, in the second part of our presentation, we plan to look at why pigeons are seen as pests nowadays and what is being done to control them. A lot of people in the city like to feed pigeons, don't they?
Yes, some people think that it's kind, but in fact, it's not a good idea.
I suppose human food isn't very healthy for birds, especially fast food.
Actually, because the pigeons don't have to spend time looking for food, they have more time to mate and reproduce. And so it results in population explosion.
I see. So the city becomes absolutely overrun by pigeons. That's bad for the city and for the pigeons. Now, I read that here in Melbourne, we have a pigeon problem in the centre of the city, and the City Council is trying to deal with it.
Yes, they've built some special nesting places in one of the parks in the city centre. They're designed to house the pigeons so they stop creating nests on buildings.
But isn't that just changing the location of the problem?
Well, that's just the first step. In the second stage of the council scheme, they exchange the pigeon eggs for dummy eggs. It's like a form of birth control.
A very elaborate one. Someone would have to go in and replace those eggs by hand.
Well, yes. The program does work as a means of controlling the population, but the financial burden on the taxpayer is quite high.
Yes, I imagine it would be.
The most successful pigeon control program in recent times was in Basel in Switzerland.
And what did they do?
Well, the City Council found that teaching the public about the negative effects of feeding pigeons was more effective than trapping the pigeons, or providing alternative nesting sites for them. These were both methods they'd tried previously.
Really? We'll have to include that finding. Do you think we've got enough for our presentation, or should we do more research?
Well, I was thinking that we should also make it clear to the audience why pigeons in cities are undesirable.
Yes, we haven't really done that yet.
Right. I've got some information on the damage their droppings do to buildings.
And I've got something related to that on how their feathers can block gutters and pipes causing water damage.
But I haven't found anything yet on the health risks to humans that urban pigeons pose.
Neither have I. Let's look for some information about that and add it.
Okay. Can we meet again tomorrow in the computer lab too?
That is the end of part 3. You now have some time to check your answers. Now look at part 4.
You will hear a student presentation about a type of palm tree called the lontar palm that grows on an island in Indonesia. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40 on page 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
As part of this semester's geography project, I'm going to talk about a tall palm tree called the lontar, which mainly grows on the island of Roti in the south of the Indonesian archipelago. Now, the lontar is a truly amazing example of how one tree can sustain human life. The locals call it the tree of life, and with good reason, because the tree provides them with virtually everything they need in the way of food, drink, utensils, and shelter. The lontar juice is the most amazingly refreshing juice you'll ever taste. The juice is collected from high in the tree in a process known as tapping. Basically, a slice is cut into part of the tree and the sap flows slowly from it into a container. It's then collected twice daily. Male and female lontar trees are different. Male lontars can be tapped all their lives, so they are preferred. If the female tree is left untapped, a large fruit develops, like a coconut in appearance. The watery interior of the fruit can be drunk, but these fruits are often left to fall to the ground as animal feed. Men and older boys climb to the tops of the trees to do the tapping. They don't use safety equipment, but make things easier for themselves by tying stones to the trunk. What is amazing is that so much of the equipment they use in the tapping process is actually made from the tree itself. The men attach all the tools they need to a belt that they wear when climbing the tree. In most cases, climbers own particular trees within their family. Ownership involves not only care of the trees themselves, but also a share in the maintenance of the fence, which belongs to the local community. Anyway, more about this incredible juice. Tapping reaches a peak at the end of the dry season, which runs from September to October, as villagers work frantically to get their harvest in before the rains come and it gets too wet and windy to climb. Whatever juice isn't drunk immediately has to be processed as quickly as possible, as it turns sour very rapidly. In the rainy season, when no fresh juice is available, the locals drink a concentrated form with water added. The locals also use this rainy season version of the drink in other ways. For example, it can be used to make biscuits of brown sugar. But the lontar palm supplies much more than sustenance for the Rotinese. The broad lontar leaves are woven into a huge number of things: containers for watering the garden, and bags for transporting chickens to market. People also use them to cover the roofs of their homes. When the leaves are replaced every 5 years or so, the old ones are burned on the garden as a fertilizer. So you see, the leaves are never wasted. The Rotinese also make a distinctive hat out of the leaf. Design-wise, they were inspired by 16th century Portuguese helmets. There are many for different occasions, ranging from simple ones for everyday use to larger and more elaborate hats used for a celebration, which are painted in bright colors. The lontar leaf even provides the Rotinese people with a unique musical instrument known as the sasando. The leaf is made into a sounding board and has strings attached, which are plucked in the manner of a harp, and the sound produced is also similar. But even that isn't all. The stalks of the lontar leaves can also be used. They are really strong and grow up to 1.5 meters long, and local people produce ropes from them. Even when a lontar tree becomes old and unproductive and no longer can be used for tapping, the whole tree is cut down and the thick trunk is utilized for building houses. Their immense strength means that they are highly valued for this purpose. Now, one thing I haven't spoken about is...
That is the end of part 4. You now have some time to check your answers.
That's the end of the listening test. You will now have 2 minutes to check your answers.